Hello. How y'all doing? Good. I brought a whole bunch of books. Show them all off. This one here, which sadly I don't get my name on the front because I was one of the nobodies, but got a good story in this, and it was actually one of the short lists for the Bram Stoker Award, but it did not get the nomination. Yeah. This was my first book, which I'm going to read from, because Chad kind of, well, I'm encouraged to read something a little braver as he's read. And then this was the one I was going to read, which I still will, hopefully, but it's a little deeper into the story, so it'll take a little bit more background to get into. I write fantasy fiction. If I was to, as everyone's talking about how to sell your book as though it's a Hollywood market, if I was to tell you my books, I would say that it's Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings smashed with Stephen King's The Stand. That's what you're going to get when you open up my books. I say Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings because J.R. Tolkien was really overly wordy, and I'm a lot more user-friendly. And Stephen King's The Stand is a fantastic story of the battle between good versus evil. And that's kind of what my story is really about. The two main characters, before I can read it, that I need to discuss are Papalia and Wanker, and the name does sound like Wanker. The character is kind of developed on the course of Johnny Cash's song "A Boy Named Sue." So he kind of has that same kind of dilemma in his life, is that he's basically a self-taught sorcerer. He's a bumbling idiot, but he's got heart. He is a full-blooded elf who was exiled from his tribe and has been adopted into a monastery. Papalia was born in that monastery on the same day that Wanker arrived. So it's kind of this weird, cool, like serendipity thing. One of the things that with fantasy fiction, you'll see that there's a lot of very popular sorcerers out there, Gandalf being one of them. If you've read The Eye of the World, any of Robert Jordan's stuff, you'll have seen another fantasy fiction author who really focused on magic. And I'm more focused on kind of more of a spiritual magic, which is a little different. Sorcery is still part of my series, but having the central character of Priestess has been a lot of fun. Papalia, with most of the people who've read my book, I found that it's a 50-50 hit with men, that either they love or hate Papalia because Papalia's a bitch. If you're a man, you'll either love her or you'll hate her because she's a bitch. And then women, 100% of my women readers love Papalia because she's a very strong character. She's a strong woman and she's a bitch. So most women have loved her. Her god is a little different. This is not our world. So the god that she's a representative of is a great teacher, and basically is the source of the question why. So it isn't so much that there's answers from her god, it's more that her god encourages her to find the answers. The scene that I'm going to read is from the first book, and after Papalia and Wanker have gone through all sorts of hell, they've been waylaid on the road. The premise of the story is that two thieves have come, they've stolen a sacred artifact from Papalia's church, and purely by destiny, Papalia's the poor sap who has to basically recover it. So it's basically Papalia the priestess against a gang of very nasty thieves, and they are cutthroat, they are dirty, they are not nice. And so far, to get to the capital city where she believes this thief is hiding out, they've had to deal with being waylaid by a band of nasty elves that were on the side of the road who were pissed off because they were crossing their territory, and then to be chased by this hostile bear through the woods for a long time. So it's been an arduous journey for them to get here. Along the way, they actually had a couple gems to sell, so they're at this jeweler in this huge market that's taking place, and that's kind of where this sort of begins, is that they've sold these gems, and so we'll start with that. The jeweler took 2 gold coins. Oops, a little too early. She was a little perplexed. She now had more coins than she had places to store them. The pouch formerly containing the stones held 13 gold and 20 silver coins. Walking through the market with handfuls of gold and silver coins would only invite trouble. Winker, could you please put the rest of these in your bag? Papaya asked. The jeweler chuckled as Winker gathered the remaining coins. He looked amused and said, "You didn't even blink when she called you that." He looked over at Papaya, then to the jeweler. "What else would she call me? My name is Winker." The jeweler laughed as Winker gathered the remaining coins and put them in his buckskin bag. They left and Papaya apologized. "I'm sorry, I try not to use your name around people." It was Winker's turn to utter a hopeless chuckle. "Among my elven brothers, my name is a curse. Among humankind, it is an insulting joke. Maybe I should try my luck living with forest goblins." Papaya laughed lightly. "Yeah, perhaps your name would translate to free meal." "Ha ha," he laughed while sticking his hand in the mock handshake, and said, "Hello, goblin. My name is Tasty with a little salt. Could I join your tribe?" Papaya laughed as she began pushing through the crowd. Winker followed as Papaya created an opening through the wall of people. Papaya asked, "Why don't we just use your translated name instead of your birth name?" "One hand against?" Winker thought about it for a moment. "It would be better than being laughed at all the time, but I think translated into human speak would insult my heritage. The medicine elf had warned against forgetting I was an elf. My tribal name shouldn't be translated for humans. For 22 years I've been a friend to your family, but not until 4 days ago did you know my name actually had a meaning. That could be part of Alania's warning to me." I'm reading too fast. Papaya excused herself through the large group of women. Once they saw Papaya was a priestess, they gave her a wide space to pass. I gotta pause here real quick, because it's kind of significant that she's a priestess, because when you think about Renaissance time period, if you were a priest, people moved out of your way, because when you think about like the Spanish Inquisition, if you pissed off a priest, you're in deep shit. So Papaya kind of walks with that type of air everywhere she goes, because you're gonna move out of her way, because you don't want the wrath of God. "Oh yes," he answered. "I'll stand by that too. All people touched by gods are crazy, but not all who are crazy have been touched by a god." "I've been touched by my god," Papaya then asked. "Are you saying I'm crazy?" "Without a doubt," he replied. She stopped in the middle of the T intersection and looked at Winker. "I am not crazy, I am guided." Winker shook his head. "Only a crazy person would think it's sane to chase shadows, believing they can be caught." "Are you referring to Kadia?" "Kadia's the thief." "I will do it," she said resolutely. My faith doesn't make me crazy. I know she isn't going to just fall into our laps." She looked at the people of all shapes and sizes walk through the market. Some wore smiles on their faces, and others carried large parcels in both hands. Winker also looked around and saw a merchant who was selling hens in cages. Another merchant, surrounded by bales of hay, called out his prices to a mob passing by. Winker asked, "Which way do we go, priestess? How would a sane person do this?" "I already prayed this morning. The mystery will show us the way when the path is ready," Papaya defended her belief. "You're talking in circles now," Winker, who was still looking through the crowd, said. "Hey look, there's an Athenian merchant over there." Winker started walking towards the recently unshaven merchant. "Hey, where are you going?" Papaya ordered. "I was touched by Fenil," which is one of the elven gods. Forgot all this background, I'm just going to tell you. "And I don't think we should wait for a sign," Winker said indignantly. "That might be what some sane people do, but Lanya Mora didn't wait for her god to touch her daughter, she found you to touch her daughter." Papaya looked mortified. "What are you doing?" Standing on the tall platform, a dark-skinned merchant called into the crowd. Within his hands were 2 pieces of rope, one made from hemp, thick and knotted. On his other hand, held higher, was a thinner rope made of silk. He called out as he shook the knotted rope, "Don't use this anymore. Use silk, it's lighter, and it's stronger." On his platform at the feet, the banner read, "The Rope Master." "Hey," Winker called up to the merchant. "Hey, Rope Master." Papaya cringed. "Don't do it." The short-haired Athenian looked down at Winker and stopped his pitch to the audience. "Hey, elf, did you come from your woods to buy the finest rope ever made?" "No," Winker answered. "We came to find a young woman named Kadia. She is from Athenia, and her hair is a lot like yours, only hers is shorter and without facial hair. Her skin is lighter than yours, and she has 2 big blue stripes on the side of her face. Oh yeah, and she's a woman. Do you know her?" "What?" he exclaimed angrily, while the people who were listening to his pitch chortled. "Did you just say I looked like a woman? I'm coming down there, I'm going to beat you like a woman." Winker raised his hands as a show of no aggression, and yelled as if the man was hard of hearing. No, I didn't mean that. I didn't mean she is an Athenian. and you're the only other Athenian I've ever seen. Everyone in Ashton Hamlet knows each other, so maybe you know who we are looking for. Her name is Claudia. Do you know her? I called urgently. Come back here before you get hurt. Yeah, the merchant agreed. Follow the priestess before I thump you on the head with this knotted piece of rope. The audience laughed at this. One of the laughing men stepped forward to buy some rope. The merchant quickly lost interest in Winker, and he began to make money. I'm not crazy. It's you who are crazy, Papaya scolded Winker as they walked back smirking. Let's get out of here, away from the rope salesman. Winker followed a furious Papaya. He'd taken a couple paces when a voice called, "Psst." Papaya didn't hear the caller. She was clearly too angry to hear anything outside the noise in her head. She kept walking at a stiff pace. Winker heard the second call. "Psst. Hey, elf." Dirt smudged upon his forehead and left cheek. Winker caught the eyes of a man with dark brown beard and mustache. His hair appeared mangy, and his clothes had not been cleaned in days. Held up with a piece of leather drawn through the holes cut in his wood. Held up with a piece of leather drawn through holes cut within wool. His pants were a couple sizes too big. An old jerkin fitted too small with the buttons stressed around his belly. The dusty gold jerkin was a constant contrast to his long-sleeved undershirt, stretched and long, looking as if he had slept in it for weeks.